have already opened up the first begin state of our notes applications that you'll also find in the access files, and I'm now going to show you what we are trying to achieve in this video. So, this is the skeleton application that I've been talking about, and when we are now clicking or pressing on the plus icon in the top right corner, what we're doing is calling an addNotebook IBAction, and there we're creating a UI alert controller that asks the user using a text field for a notebook title, and we are offering a cancel action. We are offering a create action, and in this create action, the real magic actually happens. So, as soon as I enter a new title, so let's say a new book here, and I create that, we're entering this action here, and what we're doing is checking if a title is really available, and then we're using a notes manager that we have already implemented and using a singleton pattern actually, to not have to create an instance of this notes manager, and we're then calling the addNotebook function of this notes manager and giving it the title, and as soon as we did that and as soon as we save that title to our Realm database, we're actually calling the loadData function that then checks if there are notebooks, and we are calling the getNotebooks function, and if we are getting notebooks back, then we are filling that into the notebook array that is supposed to help us populate our table view, and that is also the reason why we're calling reloadData on the main thread. Because of this, it's going to be reflected in the user interface. So, we're calling reloadData, and this is going to trigger an update of a number of sections and number of rows in sections, and also call cell for row at index path, where we are populating the table view with the data from our database, and this is what we are trying to achieve now for real. So at the moment, as you can see, nothing happens yet, but this is only the case because we did not fill out everything here in our notes manager, and as I've said, for the notes manager, this is a singleton pattern which is supposed to help us only create one instance of this notes manager over the course of running our application, and having this singleton pattern here with the class notes manager and its static constant shared, we can just use this notes manager and its shared property to call all of the functions that we need, like the addNotebook function or the getNotebooks function, and this is what we are implementing in this video. So, to add a notebook, the first step that we need to take is creating our realm as we did before, and I'm using try! Here again to not have to deal with error handling. We could do that if we wanted to. And we also need to create a new notebook object now, so this is very similar to what you've already done in the basic section of this course. After creating this notebook, we can add a title to the notebook using the parameter that we have here in our addNotebook function. The title parameter here, we are using that for the title of our notebook object. And then we are also passing along a creation date just using the date initializer, and then all there is left to do is actually saving that object to our database. We're going to do that with a do, try, catch block. So, try, realm, write, so we're having a write transaction here using our realm. Adding an object which is a notebook object, and catching a possible error by adding a catch block here, and print the localized description using the error object and its localized description. So, let's quickly build that, and this seems to be working fine. And now, the last thing that we need to do is actually fetching notebooks, and we're doing that with the getNotebooks function, and as you can see, this returns an optional array of notebook objects, and returning an array of notebooks here is really just my personal preference when it comes to dealing with table view. So, you could also write some logic to use the standard results from Realm, but as I said, this is just my personal preference here when it comes to dealing with data from Realm and putting that into a table view. So, my first step that I'm going to take here now to get my notebooks is, of course, to create my Realm object. So I'm trying to initialize my realm here just as we did before, and then I create my notebooks results object using my realm and calling the objects function that is going to return all of the notebook objects for me if I specify the correct notebook type here. So, this is going to get every notebook from the Realm database, and now that I have them, I could already return that and this would be a results object, but as I said, I'd actually like to work with an optional notebooks array, and this is why I'm going to use my notebooks. Call the map function that is going to transform all of the data into what I actually want, and this is going to create an array with all of the objects that I want, and here I'm going to use $0 to get all of the objects from my notebooks object from this results object, and map is going to turn them into an array, or is going to create an array and put every element from this notebooks object into an array, and there is just a very simple code to actually do that without having to create for loop. And this is just a standard feature of Swift that you can also look up in the documentation together, for example, with filter flat map, and so on. So, very cool feature of Swift here. And this is actually all there is to it and all that is necessary to actually work with our application so that we can really see notebooks in our user interface. So, I'm running this now in the simulator, and if we create a new notebook, we should be able to see that in our new user interface. So, I am pressing on the plus icon here, creating a new book, and hit the create button, and as you can see here now, I just sent a breakpoint here in self-array index path to actually populate now our table view. What we do is a pretty standard approach. We are creating a notebook object here using our notebook array that we have added at the top of our class here from the notebook table view controller that stores notebook objects, and we are using the index path and its row to access this array, and then getting the appropriate notebook object for each cell, and then we're using this notebook object to populate the cell and its text label and its text property with a notebook's title, and if this works, then we should see, indeed, a new notebook.